lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you have not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. Most importantly, if you'd like to join this discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by The Plain Truth, Slick James Johnson, Sleeping Warrior, Ranty Flat Earth, Paul Flatten Earth, and Chocolate Sane, and 10th Man. Good to have you all.
Yo.
Hello.
Hello. Unfortunately, there's going to be no after shows, so every time I run a recording, I've been having loads of technical issues with OBS and my audio desk, and what was the other thing I was having issues with? Stream Deck, just general issues, and I've figured them all out, but now the whole thing crashes when I start a recording. So the last show went out live, but the recording died. And then when I started a new recording, the recording would work, but as soon as I started the live show, OBS would crash. So it's like, well, lesser of two evils, I'll just run the live show without a recording. So there'll be no after show, no pre-show, no nothing. It's just going to be the live show today, and I may mirror it just for archive purposes on the second channel. But there we go. That's it for today. It's just the live shows on the main channel, which is the best bit anyway. So no loss in that regard for the audience. But a pleasure to have you all. Can we run through housekeeping?
Yeah.
If you want to join and you're a baller in opposition to any of these devastating arguments, then feel free to join. There is a link in the info box below this video. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Yeah, Mateus KP apparently has done a ferry that clearly shows the curvature of the Earth. And what I'm going to say is that if this really is the curvature of the Earth and we can do this ourselves this easily, then there wouldn't be a conversation. Ranty, would you like to screen share? By the way, I've sent you in Skype, Ranty, where I think he was.
Right, okay.
Let's watch this, because if this really is the curve of the Earth, right, and it's this easy to do, I'm being a baller.
You're being a baller?
Yeah, if this really is the curve of the Earth and it's that easy to do, sign me up. Where is it?
Right, I'm presenting now. Am I displaying now?
You are. Looks beautiful.
Okie dokie then. So here we have an observation of a ferry, which apparently goes over the water. That's all I can say. It's an apparent, and I wanted to bring it to the attention because we don't hide stuff like this, you know? We want to look into it. We want to find out what is going on here.
No, that's probably the best video I've ever seen of a boat going behind the curve. So let's play that again. Now, for me, the first on the ball side, if this really was the curve, honestly, I'd be a baller. On our side, that boat's got to travel some way, some distance to gain that amount of curvature.
Yeah.
Why is it not getting any smaller?
Well, I've just been working on the curve calcs, and the reason I'm doing that is obviously because the globers are going to say that this is proof of curvature. Now, I'm going to make, I've asked him for the names of the boats, the time, which boat it was, etc. From what I can gather, just off the data that he's provided, this boat looks like it's traveling. I'll show you where I think it's traveling, because again, he's still not got back to me yet, and I wish he would. But it's leaving this harbour here, this Bornholmslingen.
Yeah, do we know the distance at all?
Well, yeah, this is what I'm working out now. So let me just put a path in here. So I'm going to follow the let me just put this path in.
Oh.
Just bear with me, guys. So if the ferry leaves here, and I'm assuming it's taking this route here.
No, Ranty, I think you're at the wrong port. I think you're at the other end.
What do you mean?
I think because the other port is called Bornholmslingen as well, which is bizarre. Going the other way, and there's rocks at the side of it. I think you're at the receiving port rather than the departing port. See where it says Yastad? Hang on, Ron. Yeah, Ron. Yeah, where it says Yastad, zoom into Yastad.
Yeah. Okay.
And then zoom into where the lines go in, and you can see that that's called. Zoom in a bit more. You can see that port there is called. Oh, on mine it labels that as Bornholmslingen, and there's a boat. There's a boat that's on the side there that's in the port there. Well, if you go to the left a little bit.
Well, no, this is if I go to this one here and I scroll in. This names it Bornholmslingen, and you do have a boat with what appears to be a helipad on the top.
Yeah, but I've looked for rocks around that area and I don't see rocks, but I do see rocks at the other side.
Well, this is why we need a lot of information from him. We need to know which boat it was, where it was travelling from, and essentially, we need to find an explanation for this, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, can you imagine if we didn't put where we were accurately enough for them to be able to work it out? I mean, it would be dismissed immediately.
I mean, I have to say it's a fantastic observation.
I only hear Anthony is
Hi, Warren.
talking.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Travis. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I only hear Anthony. I don't hear anybody else talking.
Really?
Oh, you got the gremlins.
Gremlins.
Can you hear me, Trav?
Yeah, I got that. I just it sounded like Anthony was talking to Ranty, but I didn't hear Ranty.
Yeah, I was talking to Ranty.
Yeah, he's talking to Ranty. You can't hear Ranty at all?
No.
That's crazy.
That's weird.
That's weird.
But you can hear me.
Ranty. Take the floor, Ranty. Speak to Travis directly.
Travis, can you hear me?
Right, he's just said, Travis, can you hear me?
No.
That's so weird.
That's so weird.
I love it.
My voice is being censored.
That is
censoring reality.
Don't present this. It's proof of globe.
Can we put the link in the side chat?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You can put it in the public chat. I'll approve it so that whoever this is, at least they hopefully gain some subscribers for it.
So now we see it, now we don't. And it's definitely an observation that needs some explanation. I'll have to say that.
Well, the thing is, though, Ranty, let's just confirm what the total distance that boat could possibly have travelled is.
Well, I've just done the route, and it's essentially 41 miles. So 41 miles is the route.
Hang on. And the horizon from a distance of the horizon at elevation close to the water that he's at, which is a few feet, is only like 3 or 4 miles. How far is that boat travelling for him to get that apparent amount of curvature? Because it can't be a lot, can it?
Well, here's the thing, you see. So, just looking at the video, I'm going to say that it's between 5 or 6 feet above the actual water at the time, which means that the horizon is at
Just to let you know, guys, I'm going to go
4 miles.
Sorry to interrupt, Ranty. I'm gonna drop but I'll place hold whilst I go and eat loads of burgers and loads of bad stuff and ice creams and stuff, and gain about 3 pounds stones. So I'll be back in about 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, if the boat's at 3.224 miles, and that's when the boat starts to drop off. Let's put that calculation in. 3.24 miles. So we've got no hidden. Now these boats are about 100 feet tall. So we need to find at what distance from a 6 feet elevation this 100 feet will come into play. So Let's put in 13 miles. Still not enough. 16 miles, 93, 17 miles. So about 17 miles away. The problem is that this is only a 20-minute video. So it's a 20-minute video, and it takes 2.5 hours to travel the 41 miles, which means that essentially that boat would have had to have disappeared in half the distance. So it would have had to have been disappeared at around about 9 miles away, which only gives around about 19 feet of drop. So it appears that there's something that, refracted hidden. So it appears that something else is going on there. Does that make sense?
All of this stuff just seems like a whole lot of speculation, because no matter what, nothing can be verified. So that's why all of this stuff with, trying to figure out what it's doing without being able to prove it, you can just speculate all day on it.
Wouldn't speculation help you determine what your hypothesis could potentially be? And you can work from there to determine your scientific evidence.
Well, it's back to the usual assertion. They have one cause to assert. There's only ever one cause. What would that be, gentlemen? What would be the cause of that according to our opposition? That effect that we just witnessed?
Earth curve.
Earth curve, exactly. So, if we put it to them that there is perhaps a limitation of the angle, or an actual obstruction in the near foreground like a wave, that will be immediately dismissed and relabeled Earth curve, because there's only one cause, Earth curve, according to them. So the fact that there is easy to describe reasons for things disappearing into the distance, they're never accounted for. It's just geometry, right? Well, no, that's not how we see things. We don't just see geometry. We also see atmospheric conditions. We also have the limitation of the aperture of the camera, calculable in the Rayleigh criterion. We also have the angle of elevation that we're viewing at, closing the angle closer to the deck, causing the bottom of things to be obscured if you're to lower your elevation at the same distance. We have the distance of the object itself, the fact that it will disappear entirely from view purely down to its angular resolution, the diffraction limit, the point that things disappear into the distance. Sod all to do with Earth curve. What is that, you say, Globehead? Just Earth curve? Well, no, I'm afraid not. That's not going to wash anymore. That's the only assertion they can make, and it's the only assertion of a cause that will ever be asserted by them, ever. Earth curve. It's the only reason things disappear into the distance. That's the only reason, according to our opposition. Well, no, there's multiples of things that can cause things to disappear into the distance, none of which are accounted for, all of which are called Earth curve, according to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, they've got 3 different boats that do this journey, and they've got 3 different speeds. It's like the fastest one will do that 41-mile journey in just 80 minutes, whereas the slowest one will do that same journey in 5.5 hours.
Hey, Bob.
So we need to know which boat it was, essentially.
You guessed. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, Nathan. Yeah, hey, Nathan, you got me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, did I hear you just had another child?
I did, yeah. Second child.
Congratulations, my man. Was it a boy
Thank
or a
you very
girl?
much. It was a girl. Clover, her name is.
Oh, Clover?
That's right.
Cool. Well, congratulations. Is your wife doing okay?
Yeah, not really. She had a C-section, so she's pretty immobile at the moment, but she's doing okay, I guess.
All right, no push-ups for a week, okay? Doctor's orders.
Indeed.
All right. Go ahead and carry on. I wanted to kind of catch up with what you guys were talking about.
Same old, same old. So where there is only a single assertion of Earth curve being the reason for anything in the distance occurring, it doesn't matter what the occurrence is, it's always asserted to be caused by Earth curve. That's the general assumption by our opponents.
Okay.
Hey, plain truth.
All right. I was curious about that limit of diffraction. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Travis, are you hearing things?
Can you hear us,
Yeah.
Travis?
I switched over to Chrome, so it was Explorer that was all wonky.
Cool.
Well, you've already told us.
Yeah,
once
Chrome
before.
is the
You
only
know-
way you can do these things, or you miss half the dialogue.
Yeah, sure. You are.
No, I'm kind
aware-
of curious about your thoughts on the Rayleigh criterion.
What about it?
I was curious as to how you feel that makes things disappear, and why it should be in the curve calculator.
No, I didn't say that it should be in the curve calculator. The curve calculator has hijacked these effects of things in the distance disappearing and called it Earth curve. There's only one assertion from the curve calculator, isn't there, Bob?
Yeah.
So everything.
Well,
everything.
It's geometry. Yeah.
Yeah, just geometry. So one cause only. Things only disappear in the distance because of Earth curve, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, no, they don't, do they, Bob? Things can disappear because of the diffraction limit.
Oh, great. Tell me all about that.
Things can disappear because of the diffraction limit. I just did.
And what is the diffraction limit?
Something that's entirely ignored from your calculations, Bob.
Well, it's completely unnecessary. But you tell me why you think it should be in there.
Sorry, Bob. It's entirely ignored from the calculation. They're not my calculations. I don't want to put anything in them. There's only one assertion made by the Earth curve calculator.
Okay,
Earth
so why
curve.
do you feel that
You're
the
talking
Rayleigh
over me, Bob? I haven't
criteria
finished my
has
statement. Do you mind not
anything
talking over me
whatsoever
while I
to do
make a
with the curve
statement?
calculator?
Yeah, do you mind not talking over me? Yeah, thank you. So, there's only one assertion made by the Earth curve calculator, in spite of the fact that things can disappear with distance.
Tell me all about it.
Yeah, just
How
did.
can they disappear with distance?
Because they get too small to see.
Oh, please do.
They get too small to see. Their angle is too small. The angular...
Great. What's the angle? What's the critical angle?
I'll say it again. Something that's ignored in your calculator.
I'm asking you, Nathan Oakley, to tell me what the critical angle of the human eye is that would make things...
I don't know. Hold on, let me answer him. I don't know. What I do know is it's... sorry, I'm not finished talking. Can you stop talking over me, please, Bob, while I'm halfway through explaining my answer? It's okay, Bob. We all know there's only one assertion made by the Earth curve calculator. Earth curve. However, the diffraction limit is real, and it's ignored in the calculator. Things definitely... Yeah, I hadn't finished. Things definitely do disappear due to their angular resolution, i.e. when the angle is too small, you can no longer resolve that item. So, that effect, which absolutely does take place and is calculable. Do I know the calculation off the top of my head? No. Does it matter? No. It's not applied in the... every time there's talkover, all it does on OBS now is cut the sound. So talkover's just going to really ruin everyone's day. If everyone talks over each other, it just cuts it on OBS.
Well, I'm trying to help you here, Nathan. 0.02.
Who cares? Who cares? It's excluded from your maths. It's a real thing, Bob. And you're saying it's excluded. The only assertion is Earth curve. Well, other things do cause stuff to disappear in the distance, and they're ignored.
All right, my turn.
Hey, Bob, I've got a question for you. If something's got an angle of 0.001 degrees, would you be able to see it from 29.3 miles away?
I don't think he knows. Nathan, would you like to know?
No, Bob, I'm asking you the question, Bob. Would you be able to see something with an angle of 0.001 degrees from 29.3 miles away that is only 3.2 feet in height?
You're saying you've used two numbers. Do you want
0.001? Yes.
No, you would not. You would see a point. It depends whether you actually saw it. It would be whether or not it was light enough.
Sorry, now, Bob, can you show me where that very real fact of life is accounted for in your calculator that says Earth curve is the reason it's not seen?
Yes. Easily.
Okay, go ahead.
How large would an object be at 29 miles if it was 0.001 degrees in size? You said 3 feet?
No, I didn't say that. How big would it be?
Well, you have to tell me how big it would be.
No, that would be an actual... Sorry, how big it would be? That would be an actual size, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Well, we don't see things in actual size, Bob. We see them in angular size. That's how this picture on screen now is comprised. Based on the angle to the trees in the near foreground, they appear bigger. So I'll do it
but
again.
you see,
I
you
hadn't
don't
finished.
understand angular
Bob,
sine,
can you
Nathan.
stop talking?
That's the
I'm
problem.
talking. Bob, don't talk over me. All that happens is OBS now cuts it. It cuts the mic if you talk over me. I don't know why. I don't like it. I don't want it to do that. But that's just what OBS is now doing. So this tree here, Bob, in the near foreground. Can you see it? It takes up 50% of the frame. Now that's irrespective of its feet and inches value. Yeah? This tree over here takes up a considerably less amount of the frame. Now that's an angular quantification of its size. Now it might very well be the case that this tree is in actuality much bigger than this tree, although it doesn't appear that way in the picture. So this would be an angular size. And if you push this tree far enough away, you won't be able to see it at all. The angle will be simply too small to see. This is ignored. Even though it's the absolute basis for how this entire picture is comprised, your calculator ignores it. And if this tree gets too small to see, the calculator says it's Earth curve that's blocked it.
Well, we could put it another way to you, Bob, is that if you was looking across a Great Lake that was 29.3 miles, and let's just suppose that this lake is flat, just for argument's sake, right? So you have a clear.
All right, we're going to assume a flat lake.
Well, wait, I'll tell you
miles
what.
Across.
Or we
That's
can,
fine.
or I'll tell you what. We could assume a globe Earth, and we are looking at Blackpool Tower that is almost all of it hidden, except for the top 3.2 feet of it. So you can choose whichever you want. But at 23,
no, it's your chicken. You cook it.
Okay,
you choose which one you want. Do you want flat or do you want to go up?
Oh well, I'll tell you what. Let's do globe. 29.3 miles away. We're looking at Blackpool Tower. And we're only seeing that, well, the curve calculators say that we should see 3.2 feet of it. Yeah?
I'll take your word for it.
Now, the conditions are perfect for standard refraction. It's absolutely nailed on for standard refraction. So 3.2 feet should be seen from 29.3 miles away. However, its angular size is only 0.001 degrees.
The angular size of the 3 feet or the angular size of the tower? Okay, that's fine.
Of the 3 feet. So the curve calculator says that it should be visible, but the human resolution of the eye and optics and that narrow viewing angle over 29.3 miles away makes it invisible because you cannot see it.
I'd have to have a look at it to have a look, but
well, if you know, I've already done a video on this specific thing recently this week, so I already know.
Who is this? Who is this? And let me look up the video. Is this Randy?
It is Randy, yeah.
Randy? Okay, I'll have a look at it.
Well, let me just
Randy. Let me have a look at it, and I'll respond to it.
Okay, so we'll just off the basis of what I've just said, and just assuming that I'm correct with my calculations, and we have 0.001 of the degree. That is the height of this 3.2 feet that we should see over the curve, right? But that is the angle. Now that's visible in the curve calculator, but it is too small to see.
Can you see it?
It is too small to see.
Okay.
And we're asking you, where is that in the curve calculator? Because that is all perspective. Perspective is things get smaller with distance. That is the technical term. If you look it up in the Cambridgeshire English Dictionary under nouns for perspective, that is what the meaning means. Things get smaller with distance, i.e. perspective.
If you calculated the angle correctly,
yes,
I would agree that would fall below the Rayleigh criteria.
Yeah.
If the angle is 0.001 degree, you would see a single point. And then whether you saw it would depend on how bright it was. But I have a question for you then.
Sorry.
If you have
why is that in the calculator?
Tall building,
why isn't that in the calculator?
It's generally not needed.
Sorry, you've just explained that stuff disappears with distance based on its angular size, and now you're saying it's not needed. The calculator will simply assert that it's Earth curve that's causing it. Well, it's not.
It is.
The angular size is causing it. You've just made that clear. Calculable in the Rayleigh criterion. And it's not included because it's not needed.
Nathan,
It is needed, and you're talking over me. I'll just shut you up. Yeah, that he's now going to argue the toss about Ranty about isn't included in the curve calculator. So anything that disappears with distance, according to the curve calculator, the only cause, the single cause, is Earth curve. Sod all to do with what
Yes.
he's now about to argue with Ranty about. It's not included and not needed according to him, even though it's very
Absolutely not.
real and how we see things.
It has nothing to do with it. And
Sorry, I'll just do it again for this stupid asshole. This tree on screen takes up 50% of the frame, and I absolutely guarantee if it was 1,000 miles away you would not see it because it was too small. The calculator would say sod all to do with how small it is and only earth curve obstruction. Well, that's simply not the case.
Correct.
Things get too small. Not correct. Things get too small to see regardless of your fundy belief in earth curve. So, yeah, there are multiple reasons why things can disappear into the distance, and you can only claim earth curve obscures them. Wrong. Things
That
can
is
get
not
too
one of
small, and you can't resolve them. Nothing to do with earth curve, completely ignored in your calculator.
Nathan, you can either keep talking or I'll give you a key example that will demonstrate this for you perfectly. So what do you want to do?
You're not explaining why it's not necessary in the calculator.
I will right now if you will stop talking. Will you stop talking and learn something?
Excuse me, who the hell do you think you are? Do you think you're more learned than me? Do you think you're somehow smarter than me?
Let's represent the Rayleigh
Excuse me,
criteria.
who do you think you are? That's the question I'm asking.
I'm somebody who actually knows the answer to this, and you carry on for your narrative and don't want to listen to answers.
No,
Now,
the answer's come. You've explained and discussed with Ranty how things that are too small disappear. The calculator doesn't account for it. The only reason things disappear, according to the calculator, is earth curve. So whatever you discuss and detail about the Rayleigh criterion is not included in your calculator, mate.
correct.
Not correct. Things do get too small to see. Angular size limitation is a cause of things disappearing in the distance. So it's not correct to exclude it.
Go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and give it then. If you have a 100-meter tall building.
Sorry, 100 meters isn't how we see things. We see things in angles. Yeah? So 100 meters is an actual size. We don't see in actual size.
Nathan, are you going to keep interrupting me, or
Yes.
do I just have to do this on my channel?
You piss off. I don't give a shit where you do it. We don't see an actual size. I don't see a 100-meter building. I see an angle to the building.
Now, listen, Nathan. If you have
you will try and demand that we use actual size. We see angular sizes, not actual size. So your actual size is a geometric calculation that will exclude perspective. So I'm not going to have you start with actual sizes. I just know your trick. You can claim victim and piss off to your channel while I rub it into my audience that you failed immediately and used actual sizes rather than using the angular size, which is how we see things. A tree in the near foreground takes up 50% of the frame. In the far distance, it can take up a matter of pixels. Yet you will claim that its feet and inches value remains constant, excluding perspective. So you can laugh all you like, I'm obliterating your failure. So we're not using actual sizes. That's why you've discussed Rayleigh criterion and the angular resolution with Ranty. Now you will use those, not actual sizes.
Go right ahead. I'd be happy to use those.
Go on then, use them in your calculator. Oh, they're not needed. So you'll just tell us they're not required when you go to the actual size calculator?
No, they're not required, but I will go.
Yeah, that's precisely what I said you would do. You would immediately say they're not required, which is exactly what you've done, as predictable as a globe head gets.
All right, now, the Rayleigh
not all right.
criteria says
You exclude perspective. You're not going to address what I've said, or you're going to go away to your channel and moan like a bitch about how I've obliterated you, and then obfuscate the point on your own channel when I'm not here to pull your shit to pieces. Ultimately speaking, you are using actual sizes which exclude the angular relationships. That would be perspective.
All right.
So you're not going to get away.
When you're done, Randy, I'll go. Or when you're done, Nathan, I'll go ahead and do it.
What? Claim victimhood? You're not using actual sizes.
I already have one.
Why have we just discussed angular sizes for you to immediately ask for feet and inches values to be used?
I'll be happy to discuss an angular size with you.
Where is it in the calculator?
You won't let me do it.
Why? It's not in the calculator. It's not in the calculator.
All right. So you don't want to hear this because you're afraid it'll
said you'll
destroy
do
your
it.
narrative on the Rayleigh.
You've said you'll do
now,
it.
Are you going to let me talk
and you're
or
not addressing what I'm saying. You've said you'll do it. What? Do it and then do the calculations in the curve calc?
No,
and
I'll do it right now.
exclude them?
No, I'll do it right now.
What, in the calculations for curve,
No,
in
I'll
the
do
earth
it in
curve
my head
calculator
right now.
that you've just said doesn't need these calculations? So you're going to add the angular size limitation to the curve
Nathan, are you going to
calculations.
just continue to talk over me, or are you going to let me speak this and put it out?
You're not
Then you
addressing
can
a
try
word I'm
and tear it
saying. You're
apart.
ploughing on regardless of everything I say. You're ignoring me.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm getting frustrated and talking over you. You are ignoring the fact that we have just detailed and argued about angular size relationships with Ranti. You've talked about the Rayleigh criteria, and now you're throwing it all out the window and using only the actual sizes. Well, that's wrong.
I'll use the angular size, Nathan, if you'll...
It's not in the calculator. So you saying you'll use the angular size when it's not included in the curve calculator is meaningless.
Well, then I guess you don't understand it then.
No, I'm not thick. I know that you've excluded perspective and called it curvature. If something gets too small to see, you say Earth curve blocks the view. That's the only thing you can do. You've hijacked perspective, and as soon as we get to you detailing Earth curve maths, you start using feet and inches, not angular sizes. And when I point that out, you claim victimhood and say I'm talking over you.
Did you say 100 meters?
Yes, I said 100-meter tall building. How far?
Right, we don't see in meters and feet, we see in angular relationships. That's why this tree on the side of this picture takes up the entire frame. Even though this tree, we can't even resolve it because it's very far away. Well, according to your Earth curve calculator, there's only one reason for that. Earth curve.
I would say 174 miles. Or thereabouts.
So will we have a long, prolonged pause and then you ignoring exactly what I've just said and then claiming victimhood when I point out that you've ignored me for the third time?
No, I'm just giving you dead air time to give you a chance to think about it and reset a little bit. And
Think
then
about what?
get ready to listen.
Think about what? You've just immediately ignored all angular relationships and started using the feet and inches value, actual sizes. So are you going to address that or just have a long, prolonged silence and claim, I've got to think about something?
Yeah, I'm going to address it directly from angular perspective or angular size.
It's not included in the Earth curve maths. There is only one cause, Earth curve. So you saying you're going to address it, how the hell are you going to address Mick West and the Dizzy Hub and the Walter Bisling calculators that all exclude this? Are you going to magically undo that?
I'm going to show you why it isn't necessary. But
oh, so we're not going to include it then. So we've immediately done the quick switcheroo, which is say that you're going to include it, and now we're going to detail why it's not included. It is absolutely required. We see in angular size. The further something is, the smaller its angle, and the more likely it will eventually disappear from our view due to its angular size. Something that you are now going to try and attempt to dismiss. Has he just buggered off? Has he run away?
Yes, I think he dropped.
Yeah.
He had to go to work.
Oh, really? Yeah. At the point that I'm absolutely obliterating his argument because he can't include angular size. The calculator's hijacked perspective. So there's never going to reach a point where he says, okay, I'll do the angular size, making it seem to the audience like he's going to insert angular size and do the calculations using angular size. No, he'll do a load of angular size maths and then ignore them completely and go back to actual sizes that don't change with distance. A 100-foot building will be a 100-foot building if it's in the near foreground and it's taking up the entire frame, or it's too far away to actually resolve it at all because the angular size is small. It'll still be a 100-foot building according to Bob, and that's how he'll run the maths, because that's what he needs. He needs the effects removing from the calculations. He'll just say the 100-foot is 100-foot, even if it's 1,000 miles away. That's what the trick is. Hijack perspective by using actual size when we see in angular size. Bye-bye, Bob. Total failure. I'm not going to let you deceive my audience.
Here's the thing, Nathan. The Rayleigh criterion is a limit where it no longer is able to be seen. So the human eye 0.02 degrees. However, there are the degrees beneath that, well, are the larger angles. Also, they're starting to break down because they're still not fully resolvable. So there's also an argument to say that the Rayleigh criterion at 0.02 is where the limit where you can't see it. But then you've got probably 0.5 of a degree where you've got all the other pixels intermingling with each other that make it all look fuzzy and disjointed, and you can't tell one thing from another. You can see it, but it's just a mush.
What does diffraction mean, Ranty?
You tell me, Nathan. You've been asked this question. This is quite funny.
Interference.
So you do have interference between the, between the pixels at the very small angles, and then the diffraction limit is where it can't be seen. So all this argument about, I know what you were saying, at 173 miles, 100 meters will be lost to diffraction, yeah, because you won't be able to see it. But then you've probably got 300 or 400 meters above that, where it's all just being disjointed and jumbled up. All the information is being scrambled. So you can't see it. It's like when we look across water and we see at the top of the water, we see that dark band. It's like it's all disjointed and jumbled up. There could be a lot of information in there and it can't distinguish from one thing to another.
Yes, distortion.
So yeah, so it's all right saying there's a diffraction limit, but then you've also got to take into account the diffraction build up to that. There's a build up to it before it finally cuts off. So there's visible, then there's jumbled up and disjointed, and then there's the diffraction limit at 0.02.
So these are absolutely things that can cause stuff in the distance to disappear. Fact. Now, that fact is not included in the curve maths. There's only one cause, Earth curve. So where the case is that something has disappeared due to its angular limitation, it will only ever be called Earth curve. That in itself should tell you that it's a lie, when there's absolutely other factors that can cause things to disappear. Not to mention the fact that we point out that it's in side elevation, using actual sizes rather than angular resolution. It's just a nonsense that's using perspective and the effects thereof to assert Earth curve where none exists.
But shouldn't you let him talk, though, Nathan? Dig his own hole rather than drown him out? Because otherwise he'll just say, oh, look, they just keep drowning me out.
Why? At the moment he said 100-foot building, that's the point that he does the switcheroo. So if I just say, all right, well, I'll just sit back and let him make his example, when he's immediately using the hijacking of perspective. So when he said 100-foot building, it's like, what, should I just allow him to hijack perspective? That's how we've all been tricked. Now, while it might be amusing to you guys, I'm sure on the last show there was a point, I can't remember exactly what, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he's saying, oh yeah, the Earth turn caused the field goal to go in. You all chuckled. Me, I'm absolutely enraged by that. He's a liar. The Earth doesn't rotate underneath, and Bob the Science Guy is either stupid or a liar. Now, I don't tolerate stupidity, it really frustrates me. If he's a liar, it makes my blood boil even more. But what he's done is gone through the steps of saying, I understand angular resolution relationships, I understand the Rayleigh criterion, I know what the diffraction limit is. Oh yeah, Bob the Science Guy? Where's that in your calculator then? It's not needed. That's an outrage. That's absolutely disgusting to say that the very nature of how we see things can be excluded from something that's going to detail how things disappear into the distance. Well, if it's going to detail how things disappear into the distance, you better be damn sure it includes all those things, and just a declaration that they're not needed will get me to say no, that's an outrage. Why? And when he says, well, because a 100-foot building, I know with that one statement that he's going to hijack perspective. Because this tree here in the near foreground, yeah, well, that tree here might be 100 foot high. Well, as soon as you go out to here, can you resolve a tree at this distance? No. Well, that's not included in the calculator. Why is it gone? Well, there's only one cause. It's gone because the Earth curve's got in the way. Well, it's on the top of a mountain. Yeah, well, there's only one cause in that calculator, Earth curve. Well, surely there's another reason. The tree can't be seen anymore. It's not there. It's too far. Yeah, that's not included. Not needed. Not necessary. But it's not there. And it's not Earth curve, it's at the top of a mountain. But you've only got one cause to assert. So why is the tree gone? Earth curve? That makes no sense. Yeah, because the calculator only uses the effect that this tree is going to obviously vanish into the distance on the top of a mountain because of its angular size. They're going to use that effect when you're on the deck and you've got the most limited angle possible into the distance. Most of the time, over water. Well, the same exact thing is happening with the land in the distance, when it's too small to see, as with this tree in the distance. But the Earth curve calculator doesn't have any account whatsoever for the tree on the top of the mountain disappearing. It can only assert one cause, Earth curve. And when you say, well, why isn't it included? Why isn't the fact that things disappear when they get too far away included in the calculator? Well, it's not needed. Well, it's a fact of life. Not needed my ass. That's a bloody outrage. So no, I'm not going to let Bob talk his shit on this show. It's an outrage. Perspective is absolutely real. And if you want to say, well, 100-foot building, who the hell do you think you are, you stupid idiot? Are you dumb when you've just explained how you know what angular size is and you know how angular size relationships can make things disappear, and then you've got the gall to tell me about a 100-foot building? Well, that 100-foot building in orthographic, which is how their maths work, will be visible with a straight line drawn to it, even if it's 1,000,000 miles away. Just draw a straight line from observer to target, and there it is, still visible at 100 feet. Because it's higher than the guy looking at it, isn't it? Well, no. It'll drop towards the horizon, getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears entirely. Nothing to do with Earth curve. But in their calculator, it'll drop towards the horizon because the Earth's curving. Well, what about the fact that it drops because it's getting smaller? Well, that doesn't need taking into account. The Earth curve calculator can only blame Earth curve, so who cares that it gets too small? Yeah, that's what Bob's trying when he says 100-foot building. Actual sizes. That's what the calculator uses to hijack perspective. Angular relationships that do definitely occur. So sod that. If you want to bleat that I'm talking over him, tough crap. Don't use actual sizes after spending 10 minutes detailing angular sizes and how they work and can cause things to disappear. That's him tricking you. If you didn't spot that it was 10-foot or 100-foot buildings suddenly being substituted for things that would be able to be calculable with the Rayleigh criterion, then that's your bad. I spot it and go, sod that! You're not going to do that here. You're just lying and cheating and swindling me and my audience.
Nathan, I agree with you 100% on that point. That's what you have to do. You catch him in the trick. He tried to pull the trick off. It didn't work. You caught it. And that's what people don't do. They allow the trick, and that's how they get swindled, because they let the trick pass. Never let the trick pass. Kudos to you.
Right, the smoke bomb goes off on the stage, and everyone else would say, oh, where's the magician gone? Me, I jump on the stage and push him before he falls down the trap door and go, there's a fucking trap door there. 100-foot building? Well, that 100-foot's always 100-foot. I'm not going to let you use your smoke and mirrors. I'm not going to let you use your example that goes on for 5 minutes, confusing everybody, just so I can come along with a few fans to waft away the smoke and then get everyone back on track. I'll stop you in your tracks. 100-foot building doesn't account for the fact that the angle to that building will get smaller with distance. It's always 100 foot. Well, that is very useful if you're going to say that the reason it's dropping or going closer to the horizon is because Earth's dropping. No, that's an effective perspective. They've hijacked it, lied to us all using this calculator, make you assume you're on a sphere, use the effects of perspective, things dropping towards the horizon until they get too small to see. Well, they say that dropping towards the horizon is it going around a curve, and when it's too small to see, Earth's got in the way. There's only one cause. There's not only one cause for stuff disappearing. Bob knows it. That's why I think he's a liar. He's detailing the Rayleigh criterion, and just like every other bullshitting glober, he's going to say it's not needed when you study pictures that absolutely include it. It's a bloody outrage. You're not going to piss in my face, Bob. I just won't let you.
What I miss?
I'm getting told off because I wouldn't let Bob the science guy make his example. The moment he got to a 100-foot building, I stopped him in his tracks and went, no. That's an actual size measurement. That's how the calculator works. 100-foot building is 100 foot if it's in front of your nose, or at 1,000 miles. You can just draw a straight line. That's why the idiots charge us with being able to see New York from England if it's a flat plane, because in their calculator they exclude perspective. They've taken that effect of things getting smaller and dropping towards the horizon with distance and said that it's dropping around a curve, the only claim the calculator can make. And when you get someone like Bob the Science Guy to detail that he understands the angular resolution limit, the diffraction limit, the interference limit, the point where things disappear into the distance, and ask him why it's not included, he says it's not needed. Why isn't it needed? Well, because a 100-foot building, and I immediately stop him. Because I'm not going to let him piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
Nathan, I didn't tell you off. I just said let him dig his own hole and then cover himself in his own hole.
He did when he said a 100-foot building.
Yeah, but new visitors here will think, well, you're not letting him talk. We've all heard it 100 times before, but new visitors might think, why isn't he letting him talk then? He might be telling the truth.
Okay.
But we all know he's not.
All I can do to that is say, okay, newbies, the point that they hijack perspective is when he said 100-foot wall. Because if you stand next to a 100-foot wall, you've got to crane your neck up to see the top of it. Yet if you push it out to about a mile, you'll be looking completely horizontal. If you push it out to 100 miles, you can't see it anymore. It's too small. The angles decrease so much that it's got closer and closer to the horizon. Well, those effects are the effects of perspective, the angular size. And the moment Bob said 100-foot building, he's removing that aspect and using actual size, measured feet and inches, and it won't change with distance. That's what they need to utilise to call the effect of things getting smaller with distance Earth curve. It's not. It's perspective. They've just hijacked it, and if they hadn't, it would be included. It's a very real effect. And Bob knows about this effect. He's just spent 10 minutes detailing it with Ranty arguing about it. How small does the flagpole need to be before it disappears from your view? Well, a certain angular size. Why isn't it in the calculator? It's not needed. Why isn't it needed? Because a 100-foot building. No, asshole, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. I'll pull your dick off.
Can you put me on screen, Nate?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, so essentially what we have here is we have just a basic diagram here. We've got 25 slots. So we're going to call these pixels. And this white disk that's in the center is called an Aries disk. Now, this is where the information is kept in each pixel. So obviously this is for the settings for an F8 Canon EOS 1DX. However, so this is essentially, this Aries disk is touching all 4 lines. So all the information is contained in this one pixel. Now what happens is when you change the aperture, so when we go to an F11, so essentially when it starts to get diffracted, we're seeing that this information now, some of it is being lost into the boxes each side of it. And obviously, if you had an Aries disk in this one here, that would be overlapping too. So this is where diffraction starts. So this is where things start to get jumbled up. So we're going into a very low angle here, let's say 0.04 of a degree. When we get down to F16, which is the diffraction limit, and this is where essentially we start to lose everything now. Because once this diameter here starts breaching half of the box of the one next to it. So once the information from this pixel starts interfering with half of the pixel on this side, then this is where it is no longer being able to be seen. This is in the 0.02. So this is essentially what we're saying. So there is a diffraction limit of 0.02. However, there is also diffraction that's going on. This is where these parts here are starting to interfere with the pixels next to them, i.e. jumbling up the information. So, you know, it's not all to do with the 0.02 and that's it. You know, we have a greater angle where we still get this, you know, things being obscured, hidden, jumbled up and mixed up.
Spot on.
This reminds me of Joshua. Do you remember Joshua? He doesn't come on anymore. He asked how far. What?
He occasionally leaves a comment, so he watches.
So Joshua came on one day and he asked, how tall is a 10-foot wall from X distance away? And I said, it depends on how far away you are. And what he wanted me to say was 10 foot. But the answer is, well, it depends on how far away you are, because the 10-foot wall is only 10 foot when it's touching your nose. When it's 3 miles away, it's a few pixels. When it's 10 miles away, you can't even see it. So it depends, even though it's actually 10 feet, when it's subject to distance, that's called perspective. And when the summit that's subject to distance, that's the bit the ball. That's why refracted hidden is nonsense. Because what they do is they apply the refracted hidden, the geometric drop, or whatever you want to call that phrase, against the actual height of the building or the mountain or whatever. But we all know that the mountain or the building or whatever from a distance isn't the same size. It's got an apparent size. And that apparent size is what you should be applying the hidden to, because from your perspective, it's the actual size minus the distance or the effect of the distance over that actual size. So you're left with the apparent size. And that's where the hijacking is. The hijack perspective by applying it against the actual size rather than the apparent size, which for anything less than like a mountain at kind of 20, 25 miles away, it's a few pixels. That's where the curve should be. And they don't apply it against that. They apply it against the actual size. And I say no.
And I got a message for all the newbies. Never let anybody pull a trick on you. As soon as you spot it, stop it right there, because the whole idea is to get the trick past you. So if you let it past you, you're done. Always stop a trick in its tracks.
They often start the trick at the first couple of sentences. They let you worm your way down the conversation after you've agreed at the beginning of the conversation that, for example, light travels in straight lines. Well, yeah, it does. Light doesn't travel in a curve. It deviates from straight. But if you agree that light travels in straight lines, don't let them apply 7.6R, because the 7.6R is a curve. Light doesn't do that. Light follows a straight path, and it deviates from straight in all directions to a negligible amount. Yeah, we see that in Skunk Bay, but it doesn't follow an arced path. And even if it did follow an arced path, it don't follow an arced path over an arc. It follows an arced path over a flat plane. So prove that curve and prove that light travels in an arced path. Otherwise, just watch for the early questions, because they do trip you up. They get you to agree to something later on that they need, because that's the way their arguments do work.
And don't forget, let's find out where that R came from.
It's just assumed.
Yeah, I know. So maybe we should actually measure that before we assume it and put it in a math equation.
Nah, we'll just assume it. Mick West said it's okay. We'll do it.
Oh, he said it's okay? Oh, if Mick West says it's okay, then I guess it's okay.
Yeah.
yeah, why not?
I'm gutted I missed Bob the science guy, Bob the fallacy guy. Bob's the guy that thinks that you can have a scientific experiment where you simply observe something and you'd fail to manipulate something. He thinks that's science. And it's like, no, that's not science. That's called pseudoscience. Or an observation, at best. Moron.
Now, well, the best one I heard is Brenda saying that naming things is science. So far, that's the best one I've heard. Just name something, and that's science.
Brenda also thinks that crepuscular rays are parallel. Idiot.
Yeah, a lot of them seem to think that, and I'm not sure where they get that from. It's weird. They're definitely not parallel.
When I did art in GCSE, the way that we were taught to do perspective drawings was to always put vertical as vertical, not crepuscular, and then angle all your other things towards the center. It's just the way I was told. Verticals are always vertical. Things that should be horizontal aim towards the center of the paper or wherever your point of perspective is. So vertical is always vertical, and that, for me, that tells me that crepuscular rays are they're not parallel.
What's interesting, Tony, is that, when we did the observation from Hoy Lake.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of the globe heads saying, why don't we see the street lamps,
That's the angular size.
Yeah, well, what I've just done now is I've just typed in the angular size for 29.3 miles. So I've got a distance of 47,153 meters. And then to find an angular size that matches to 0.02 degrees, we're looking at 17 meters. So essentially that's close to 55, 56 feet. So 56 feet or so would not have been able to be seen anyway. And that would be higher than the street lamps.
So what you're saying is the point that we can't see just happens to coincide with the angular resolution according to Rayleigh's criteria?
Yes. And if you actually look at the image that we produced, when, for instance, we saw the lights on the top of the central pier, no, the south pier ride that's there, we saw those lights, we saw the mirror ball light, and we saw the heart shape on tower. We didn't see anything beneath that, but that would have fallen into that very small angle, too small to be seen, 55 feet. Street lights about 55 feet above sea level.
It's funny you should bring this up, because right now Daz has got this hate campaign against me. He thinks that a video that was removed years ago where I accidentally, incorrectly, falsely identified what I thought was Blackpool Tower. He thinks that something in that video is me lying. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because the video doesn't exist anymore. I deleted it because I realized I did a correction video and then I removed them. At some point, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I realized I made an error. So I removed it. But they've got a copy of this video from years back, and they think that in some way I've been dishonest and, quote, lied. But they won't accept that an innocent mistake is not the same as a lie. But nonetheless, he thinks that I'm lying. And what I've challenged him to do, he's challenged me and I've counter-challenged him. And currently the counter-challenge remains unanswered. But he wants me to go back to one particular point in Hoylake, take a picture. But I've said, I'm only prepared to go back there if you send a baller up with me and tell me the height above water that we need to be for the curve to negate what we see. And he won't do it. He hasn't done it. And he's ignored my question. But what I want to do is point out the angular size resolution limitation according to Rayleigh's criteria, which tells us the height above water that we need to be before we can no longer resolve the Blackpool Tower. And that's significantly lower than the amount of curvature, the height above water that you need to be for the curvature. And the guy will not address it. So what he's doing is spewing hate against me, which, to be honest, I don't care about. What I'm interested about is whether or not we live on a sphere. And it bugs me that he's ignoring the bigger picture. I don't care what his argument is against me personally. If he thinks I'm lying, then so be it. But why are you ignoring the point that I'm asking, which is basically to do with the bigger picture? Is the Earth a sphere or not? Because we can tell where we can see the Blackpool Tower from at that distance because of Rayleigh criteria. But the baller, there's a difference. There's a disparity between the two values, and we know we can see it from a certain angle. So we need to see. Basically, I've challenged him, and he's ignored me, but continue to spew the hate.
Well, just remember this, Tony. Right? Remember that 0.02 is the diffraction limit, right? However, things start to get diffracted at a lesser angle than that. So that diagram that I showed, where the interactive diagram that showed when the Aries disks start falling into the other pixels, this is where things will start to be diffracted. So although I gave you a definitive 0.02 17 meters would be hidden, you've also then got to take into account that probably another 17 meters on top of that would also start to be diffracted. So that would be jumbled information, you know, so it would be information that you wouldn't be able to categorically say that's this or that's that, because it would be too jumbled up to decipher. So whenever you go back to Hoylake, you've got to presume that at least the lower 100 feet or thereabouts of what you're trying to see. So when you're going to try to see Blackpool Tower, that lower 100 feet or so is essentially going to be a mixture of jumbled information and information that's too small to be seen. So you've got to start from at least, say, 100 feet.
Sure, but there's a disparity between the angular resolution limitation at 0.02 degrees and the refracted hidden, which is based on a so-called 7.6R. Well, we know that light doesn't travel in an arc. It deviates from straight to a negligible amount. So that 7.6R is out the window anyway. Mick even admits that it's an assumed radius. But there's a disparity between the two. So on the one hand, we accept that there is obstruction caused by stuff, right? There's more than one thing, but there's stuff. But the ballers call that curve. Well, there's a disparity between what they call curve, which is the refracted hidden, and what we can actually see, which is what we say is flat.
But well, you've also got to apply that critical viewing angle to their observation. So if they're presuming they live on a curve, and let's suppose they look at an observation and they go, yeah, that's just absolutely spot on Earth curve, yeah. Then you go, well, okay, what about the Rayleigh criterion? What about this 0.02 degree? You work out the distance and you say, well, okay, then there should be around about 100 feet extra that's missing here because you can't see it. So either the curve calcs are wrong or your observation's incorrect, you know, well, and you across a flat plane.
Yeah, well, we know that the curve calcs are not right because that 7.6R is the biggest red herring bullshit piece of nonsense I've ever heard. Light does not travel following an arced path in the atmosphere. There is zero evidence that proves that that's true. And even if it was true, it doesn't follow a curve. It follows a flat plane unless you can prove the curve. So basically, our position is... Go on.
Nobody said anything.
Oh. Sorry, oh no, it wasn't me. I was getting a bit of feedback from someone. I thought someone was trying to speak. But anyway, point is, this refraction calculator is 76-bit is garbage, because basically all they're trying to do is flatten out the curve so that it becomes into that area where it's a little bit obscured, which is pure obfuscation. It's either a ball or it's not. Refraction is negligible. Light does not follow a curved path unless you can prove that it does. Now, sugar solution in a tank of water is retro. What do they call it? Retro. Oh, what? I can't remember what the phrase is.
Well, you're about to go off on a major tangent, so I'll summarise again. So we see in perspective, this picture on screen now follows the lines of convergence, and things that get smaller into the distance disappear eventually because of their angular resolution limit. If you can get a baller to concede that things do in fact disappear into the distance, you just have to ask them why it's not included in their calculation, and they'll give you the same answer. It's not required, even though they're absolutely going to be comparing the effects of perspective with the effects they claim are Earth curvature. The reality being, and Ranty demonstrated it nicely earlier when he showed the comparison, i.e. just so happens that the two almost perfectly match. Well, that's because they've hijacked one and claimed it's the other. We definitely see the effects of perspective. It's apparent every single time you open your eyes or take a picture of anything ever. Perspective is real. It's not included in the curve maths. They say that effect, the same exact effect, things with distance get smaller and disappear, well, they call it Earth curve. It's because they've hijacked it. They've hijacked the effects of perspective, and they have called them Earth curvature. And with that, I will say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of today's debating panel for making today's debate possible. Also, a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for tuning in, smashing the super chat, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. If you need something to keep you occupied after this stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.